Hi everyone, I hope you're having a great day. My name is Sarah and I'm an illustrator. Every month on my Patreon, we have a design of the month. And for January, my patrons voted for one of my favorite TV shows, American Dad. So today we will be doing 2 character studies from the show in preparation for the final piece that will be given to my patrons. If you are wondering what the heck is she doing on the screen right now, I am warming up. This is something I hate to admit, but I do not do very well. I hardly do it, and for my resolution, it is something I'm trying to do every single time before I draw, no matter what it is. So do as I say, don't be like the old me, be better. That's all we can strive for, right? Let's get into the nitty-gritty now with the first character we're gonna do, which is Roger, from one of my favorite scenes, actually in the whole entire show.
Peso! Kiss! Kiss! Peso!
Honestly, that is just such a solid clip, and I just think it is so funny, and I quote it all the time. So of course, I had to pick this scene specifically to do a Roger study. As you can see here, I'm not gonna say 100% of the time, but I would say a good chunk of the time, I always start my character studies with the eyes. Especially with cartoons, eyes really define the character, and yes, they're just simple shapes, but if you mess them up, you can really lose the character recognition very quickly. So here, I start with the eyes, and yes, it's daunting sometimes to do a character study like this because you're just so worried about getting it perfect, but just try to think of it as a journey. You'll see later on that my second character study is not perfect by any means, and that's okay. If you focus on learning, then everything's gonna be okay, because that's the most important thing. As you can see, I really don't spend my time blocking out the shapes and working on getting the whole proportions of all the pieces together before then going in and getting the details. This doesn't work for everyone, and for me, it's easiest to look at the small details and then measure them in relation to the smaller shapes and lines that are near them. It's just how my brain works, and it's just how I can move forward with the study. When it comes to something like the hair, especially on Roger here, because it is a very large chunk of space, instead of just going in and trying to do those little swooshes right off the bat, I'm going to block that out with just a little form, very loose lines. So again, you're not erasing, you're not having to go really bad into that and get rid of those, and just figure out the shape, figure out the proportion. Then I'll go in and start doing the little curved lines. These lines don't have to be perfect. Do not get stressed out by this. It's not something that the type of detail that you need to get bogged down by. As long as it looks in the style in which they would do it, that's fine. You can bet your butt American Dad is not going in and making sure that every single time they draw Roger like this, all of those curved lines to represent his fro are gonna be there. It's not gonna be the same. They're gonna do what's easy, but as long as you follow in the style, you'll be fine. I also try to be really confident in my line making because I don't do second passes for studies. That's all they are. They're just studies, and I don't want to waste my time just perfecting line art because that's not the point of what I'm doing. So I try to be very deliberate and intentional with my line marks so that I have less to clean up at the end, and I clean up a little bit as I go. So if I do have to get some like double lining in there just to get the shape right, I'll try to erase it really quickly and keep that more to a minimum. Because again, the point of these studies is not to make a beautiful piece. I'm trying to learn as much as I can from how they animated textures, how they are visually presenting different information that in the real life is very complicated and detailed into something so simple, into just a couple of lines and circles. And it is crazy to me and mind-blowing that they can do this and just nail it so perfectly. And American Dad is a great example of having a very simple cartoon, but having so many textures be understood by our brains with just a couple lines. The other reason I do these studies before going into a final piece is because I really want to learn the style. I want to figure out how the eyes work, how the arms are in proportion, how the fingers work, how they might move a body part, how their expressions are done. So when I go to make my own piece that is in a different pose I've never seen before or with a different expression, I have this library I've built up in my head from the TV show, and it just makes it so much easier to then go in and make my own piece. I am a huge nerd, so I am always watching TV, movies, I'm always playing video games, or well, I suck at video games, so I watch my husband play video games and I force him to play them when he comes home from work. But I love media. I love to consume it. I'm always watching TV or have some type of movie on near me. And one of the things I love the most is cartoons. I am obsessed with cartoons. I'm a 30-year-old woman who loves her mother effing cartoons. And that's anime, American cartoons, like comic style animations. I love it. There's something about it that is just like such a holds such a place in my heart because it's such a simple thing. You may look at cartoons and think that's easy. I could draw that. But in my mind, cartoons are the hardest thing you can get right. It's so simple that one little move off and you're wrong. It looks wrong. And people can tell it's wrong. They can't tell you why it's wrong, but they can tell it's wrong. It's just so crazy that the only thing that limits what you can do with cartoons is your imagination. You can do anything you want. Any type of shot you want, any type of character you want, and it's amazing. It is just so cool. And I'm always blown away, especially with anime. I mean, come on. The studios over there are another level, and they create the coolest, most beautiful shots. If you watch Jujutsu Kaisen, okay, some of those shots are freaking insane. Or on the other spectrum of that, Violet Evergarden. Oh my gosh, love that show. Cry every time. But it's one of the most beautiful animes I've ever seen in my life. It's one of the most beautiful cartoons in general I've ever seen in my life. That and Studio Ghibli movies, they're just so good. Like, I get lost in the beauty of them. But then take it back again to American Dad. I love American Dad. It's so simple and fun and stupid, and they're so good at conveying so many different things and emotions and experiences into just a couple lines. And people who do it are my heroes. I would love to be in the field so much, and I'm striving for that. That's what this whole journey is about and what this journey that you're on. But man, you'll probably hear me geek out about cartoons a lot, or just nerdy things in general. When I get to the end of a study, I always pull back, and you'll see me do this, and just look at what I've done and compare it to the original. And I just kind of pull away, look at them, look at the proportions, and see what's wrong. So here you can see I adjust the mouth a little bit, and then I do go back into the eyes. And here is my final study of Roger. The next clip we're going to go based off of is one of my favorite songs in the whole show. I love anytime Steve sings, but this has to be my favorite. It's just like so freaking funny. I don't know. And yet he has like the best voice ever, but it's just such ridiculous things he's singing. I don't know. I will admit, and I said in the beginning, this study is not my best. Steve was a lot more difficult for me to draw than Roger. That sometimes happens for me. I did a SpongeBob character study sheet with Squidward, Patrick, and SpongeBob. Squidward and Patrick were so easy for me, and I like flew by them. And once I got to SpongeBob, I was like, oh frig. It was a lot harder. He just took a lot more time, and getting him to look correct took a lot more of my time. And here, Steve also takes a lot more of my time. It was just harder. His face was a lot more difficult to get, and in the end I still didn't even really get it, but you'll see. Again, just like with Roger, I am starting with the eyes with Steve. It's just something I do. It's how my brain works. I just can start with this and go from there. You know, it's like they say, the eyes are the windows to the soul. Is that? I don't even know if that's the quote, but whatever. We're gonna roll with it. And if it doesn't work for you, don't do it this way, and that's totally fine. There's a million ways to approach art, and no one's right or wrong. So do what you need to do, and do you. Getting his expression down was quite difficult. It's this like smug, kind of like, I don't want to say douchebag, but that's kind of what it is. Like this boy band smirk, like he knows it all, that he's got it all. Yeah, that was really difficult to draw. And just the shape of his face was so freaking hard for me. I will say, when I was doing this, it was midnight. I was very tired and I had work the next morning. So please go easy on me. Character design is definitely a skill I admire. I have taken classes on it. I love designing characters, and the people who do it well just do it so perfectly. They take everything into account. They do their research. They look at what's going on. They look at the character's personality. They look at what weird things they might do in the history of their hobbies and take that into account. You know, it's a lot of hard work. You really have to have an eye for it. And people are just so good at it. I think anyone can learn and can develop that eye, but it can just take a little bit of time. I highly recommend looking at some really great character designers. You can start by looking at Disney movies, honestly. Disney has some great character designs. Like Flynn Rider. Oh my goodness. I love Flynn Rider. He is so freaking attractive and one of my favorite male Disney characters. I just, the sarcasm, the smolder, I don't know, I just love him so much. Another really great character that I love the aesthetic of, who is also fine, is Shang from Mulan. Oh my gosh, so good. I could go into a whole episode or YouTube video just about the men that I love from Disney movies. Not even just Disney movies, but all the men that I grew up with and was just like, yeah, fine. These are some fine 2D men. Okay. Maybe I'll have to do that. I'll do that as a compilation of all as I draw them. DreamWorks also does some really good character designs. Like, one of my favorite movies ever is The Road to El Dorado, and Tulio and Miguel look great all the time. Okay, like, they look so great. And Chell, oh my gosh, come on, Chell looks fabulous all the freaking time. Love her. Character design is just so much fun. Steve's outfit is just so funny to me in this music video too. Like, all of their outfits throughout the whole thing, they just really nailed that ridiculous boy band music video type vibe. And don't get me wrong, I grew up with boy bands. I love boy bands. Like, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC were my jam. But it's just so funny because they just wear the most absurd things sometimes. Or they're like sort of a normal outfit, but then have a very weird accessory that goes with it that no one would ever actually wear. I just think they did a really good job. Getting towards the end of this study, and especially seeing it after I did it, even especially the next morning, I was like, oh man, his head is too small in comparison. I think that's one of the biggest issues with the study that I did. The younger the cartoon character, the bigger their head will be in proportion to their body. And I kind of like aged him up. While he still looks like Steve, he just looks like a little bit older version than Steve because his head is more in proportion with his body. So if I could have just go back, make it a little bit bigger, it'd be a lot more accurate. But again, it's just a study. It is not a final piece. I don't need to lose my head over it. I just need to figure out what I need to do next. And even just knowing the mistake you made and not correcting it, that's still a big step forward in your process as an artist, in your journey as an artist. Just knowing why something's wrong, what you can do to fix it, and then putting it in your brain for the next time, it's still a big, huge help. So don't freak out if you do a study and nothing's perfect. As you can see, this was not perfect, and it's fine. I still learned a lot. I learned Steve is a lot harder for me to draw than Roger is. Good thing Roger is going to be the final design. So here is the final study of Steve. It's great. I love him. Sure, it's fine. But we can move on from that. No, always love your art. Always love your art no matter what it is. And I know that's so hard, but every piece you do is a piece of you. And it's just a step. Sometimes we can't draw as well as we normally can. Sometimes our emotions affect it. And just love what you do. Try. That's what I'm doing this year. I'm really trying to love myself. It's hard. There goes my life advice for today. If you want to see the final design before anyone else, please head over to my Patreon. Thanks for watching my first video. So exciting. And I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are. Bye.